Welcome back, dear viewers, to Mr. Magazine, your window into the hidden emotions behind the dazzling world of fame. Here, we look beyond the lights, the gowns, and the applause to uncover the human heartbeat that often hides behind the glamour. Tonight's story is about a woman who stood before a sea of cameras, but chose to speak to just one man in the crowd. It's about Afra Saraçoğlu, an actress who turned an award stage into a moment of truth, and Mert Ramazan Demir, the man whose quiet reaction became the image of pure, unfiltered emotion. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Magazine, like this video, and hit the join button if you'd like to support us as we continue to bring you the real stories that touch the heart behind every headline. It was supposed to be another glittering night of celebration, an evening of sequins, flashbulbs, and career milestones. The theater shimmered with gold light, the carpet was red enough to reflect the stars, and photographers shouted names into the humid night air. But none of them could have imagined that, by the end of the ceremony, one quiet speech would overshadow the awards themselves. When Afra Saraçoğlu walked the carpet, something in the atmosphere shifted. Her appearance was understated, a satin gown of pure white, simple but luminous, like serenity made visible. No extravagant jewels, no loud statement, her elegance was deliberate, almost symbolic. It said, "I am here, but not to perform." Among the crowd sat Mert Ramazan Demir, his expression calm yet unable to hide a flicker of anticipation. Their story, known and speculated on for months, had been a delicate waltz between affection and distance. And that evening, in a hall filled with applause, the unspoken thread between them began to tremble once again. When her name was called, Afra rose from her seat with a composure that seemed to quiet even the restless cameras. The applause thundered around her, yet she moved as if walking through still air. She reached the stage, accepted the award, and paused, no script, no notes, only a fragile stillness. Then she began to speak. Her voice, at first soft, gathered strength with every word. She didn't talk about the industry, nor about trophies or trends. Instead, she spoke about falling and rising, about the exhaustion of chasing perfection, and about the rare people who see you when you no longer see yourself. And in that instant, the audience understood. She wasn't speaking to everyone, she was speaking to someone. She never said his name. Yet every sentence seemed wrapped in the same invisible presence. There are people, she said, her tone trembling with gratitude, who believe in you even when you forget who you are, whose silence teaches you that love doesn't always need to speak. And then the cameras found him, Mert Ramazan Demir. He sat in the second row, his fingers interlaced, head tilted slightly down, the corner of his mouth curving into a reluctant, trembling smile. It wasn't pride. It wasn't embarrassment. It was something deeper, the realization of being loved in front of an entire world. The lens captured his expression perfectly, his eyes glistening, his jaw tightening, the struggle between composure and tenderness. In that moment, the crowd saw something raw and human, stripped of performance, of celebrity, of artifice. When Afra finished her speech, the applause rose like a wave, engulfing the hall in sound. Yet she stood quietly for a moment, her expression calm, her breathing measured. Then, with a small nod, she walked off stage, not toward glory, but toward peace. Mert remained seated. His hands still clasped, his eyes unfocused, his lips trembling with an almost imperceptible smile. The people around him cheered, but he sat in stillness, as though savoring the weight of every word she had given him. He knew, in that heartbeat of eternity, that she had spoken her truth, and that truth had found its way to him. As the ceremony ended, speculation began to swirl faster than the lights could dim. Some claimed her speech had been a secret confession of love. Others whispered it was a final goodbye, a graceful closure to a story too delicate for the public eye. So when photographers caught Mert leaving the theatre alone, his head slightly bowed, a faint smile playing on his lips, they misread his silence. It wasn't discomfort. It was reverence, the humility of a man who had just been handed something priceless, forgiveness wrapped in gratitude. Within hours, Afra's words were everywhere. Clips flooded timelines, sound bites turned into trending hashtags, and fans dissected every nuance, every breath, every glance. Some called it the most elegant declaration of love ever made in public. Others labeled it a reconciliation disguised as poetry. And through it all, neither Afra nor Mert said a single word. No interviews. No confirmations. Only silence. What Mert felt that night wasn't embarrassment, it was a tender form of humility, the kind that comes from being truly seen. He knew every eye in the room was on him, yet all he felt was peace. Because Afra's speech wasn't an exposure of their private story, it was a tribute to what love becomes when pride fades away. Later that night, long after the ceremony, he returned home. The city was still alive with noise, but he needed silence. He switched off his phone, sat by the window, and let her words replay in his mind like music only he could hear. She had spoken with gratitude, not nostalgia. With maturity, not longing. And in that realization, he felt something rare, the joy of being part of someone's growth story, not as a lover or an ex, but as a soul who once helped another stand again. He smiled to himself, shyly, the same way he had smiled during her speech. A smile born from understanding that love, when stripped of possession, becomes freedom. The following days felt different. The entertainment world, always hungry for drama, suddenly found itself talking about grace. Colleagues praised Afra's courage, fans applauded Mert's humility. For once, a love story wasn't turned into a scandal, but into an ode to maturity. The footage of that moment, her poised speech, his quiet reaction, became something timeless. It wasn't about fame. It was about vulnerability, the courage to love without saying it, and the strength to accept love without flaunting it. And maybe that's why it touched millions, because, in a world obsessed with spectacle, they reminded everyone that silence can sometimes be the loudest declaration of all. What about you, dear viewers? Do you believe in love that survives the silence, love that matures, evolves, and heals instead of burning out? Share your thoughts down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our Mr. Magazine family. Your support helps us keep bringing you stories where humanity shines brighter than fame. For Afra Saraçoğlu and Mert Ramazan Demir, that unforgettable night didn't just mark a milestone in their careers, it marked a reconciliation of souls. No contracts, no gossip, no spectacle. Just two people who, after everything, had learned that love doesn't always end, sometimes, it simply transforms. Perhaps that's what made their story so powerful. It wasn't the kiss that followed, or a headline that confirmed romance. It was the quiet understanding between them, that forgiveness and affection can coexist, that one can speak to the heart without uttering a single name. And that, dear friends, is the story of a speech that stopped time, the moment when Afra Saraçoğlu's honesty met Mert Ramazan Demir's humility, creating one of the most unforgettable scenes in recent memory. If this story moved you as much as it moved us, remember to subscribe to Mr. Magazine, click the join button to support our storytelling, and leave a comment telling us which moment you'll remember most from that incredible night. Because here, at Mr. Magazine, we believe that the truest stories are not written by screenwriters, but by hearts brave enough to speak, even when the whole world is listening. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep your hearts open to the quiet miracles of love.